Recorded live with little or no editing. It's Defense Up. I'm Run7. How you doing? Today we're going to go over Chapter Master D's defense. We grade on 5 different criteria. It's who you're using, their placement, their power levels, their ISOs, and what kind of mood I'm in. Also, I would like to let people know we don't specifically grade on like a team's overall stopping power. Otherwise, your 1.2 million teams would all be A ranked, and teams like what's showing here would, probably get an F. What we actually do is we grade based on the garbage that you're using. How efficiently are you using that? How well are you using the leftover stuff? Because remember, you don't want to build for war defense. You want to build for raids and arena, or maybe even the pocket dimension, because those rewards are looking juicy, right? And then you want to use what's left over for offense, and then what's left over after that is what you use on defense. So let's jump into it. Team number 1 is a wave 1 smashed up with Ravagers. Now, Ravagers get a war offense bonus, not a war defense bonus. However, Stitcher has a ginormous health bar, and Yondu's summons are actually really cool. These two are replacing Hawkeye and Black Widow. They don't have any synergy with this team, so you're really kind of debilitating what the Hulk and what Thor can do here. However, this is kind of just something different and interesting. If Yondu is given enough time to get his summons out, that could cause some interesting problems. I mean, they do a lot of health steal and stuff. They can really get going. I don't think this team's built up enough to really cause anybody any kind of problems. I think you could probably still come in here with some of the basic same counters, like a supernatural or something like that is gonna roll over this team pretty well. Or I should say hella natural even. I know people absolutely hate it when I recommend hella natural and supernatural teams. They're like, oh, that team's trash. But man, they're fun to play with, and they work really well for stuff like this. They just counter so much of the old junk that we see so much of. Let's see. You got healer. You got skirmisher. I honestly don't know what to put in Yondu. I have not even looked at... He is at the very bottom of my roster. I have not looked at him at all, so I don't know. But he's war ready, so I guess that's great. Maybe a raider, since he does have some AoE attacks. Could be anything. Always nice to use skirmisher. It's a powerful ISO, getting that extra vulnerable on the field. But then you've got these two as raiders. I like Thor as a raider, but I don't like Hulk as a raider so much. I like Hulk more as a healer. But you know what? I mean, raider's not a terrible idea for Hulk either. I think that you should go healer, make the rest of this team war ready. When you get your Ravagers built up, use them as a war offense team and get something else back in here. Another good filler for like when you're taking Black Widow off for that skeleton team, a good filler is Heimdall, because he keeps Thor from being blinded, and that eliminates that hella natural team. You're forced to come into it with just about any other team in the game to beat this. So that's something you can do. All in all, it's not bad. Nothing's war ready. Your placement's pretty wonky. I'd like to see Hulk and Captain America on one side, then Thor, and then your Ravagers. I would like to see something other than Ravagers in here, but who knows? Maybe that'll play out really well and be something kind of interesting. I'm going to give you a C+ for this team. It's not very exciting. But I'm kind of curious at a higher power level, a higher investment, what this would do, these two guys right here. Okay, Mercs with Kingpin. Kingpin's absolute trash. Yes, he summons Mercs, but who cares? This team's going to be dead before he even gets to that turn. He gives some defense up to the rest of the team, but sure, he does that way better than Kingpin does. Kingpin's a horrible, horrible fit for this team. He is just too slow. Also, you have Merc Lieutenant off to the side. He is doing, when someone adjacent to him is hit, he's giving off some healing. And so there's only one person adjacent to him, which is Kingpin, and no one's going to bother attacking Kingpin because he's so slow. He is like the tree stump in the battle. And like after you get done killing everybody else and you go to sit down on this tree stump to take a rest, you realize, oh, there's still somebody left. And then you go ahead and take out Kingpin. He's terrible. I don't know if I can iterate that enough. So get rid of Kingpin. Then you already have Killmonger in here, so Shuri is a good synergistic fit because she has some synergy with Killmonger. Okay, and you went Skirmisher on Lieutenant, Healer on Riot Guard, which is kind of weird, and then you went Striker on Taskmaster. Now that's okay to do Striker on Taskmaster. His basic does come back and copy positive effects. It's one way. If you don't want to do Skirmisher on Taskmaster and Striker on all the rest of your Mercs, this is kind of something you can do. Although I'd rather see either Fortifier or Skirmisher on Riot Guard, and then Skirmisher or Healer on Lieutenant is a little bit better fit. I don't like the Healer on Riot Guard because of his speed, and he's better off with the barrier on there. But I mean, and he's only attacking less than every other turn, the way the energy goes out to this team and stuff. So, you know, the Skirmisher or the Striker is kind of a tough fit there too. I understand people just have no idea what to do with that, and it is kind of unfortunate. Personally, I like Taskmaster as a Skirmisher. Everybody else is Striker. I think that's the best way. I do like Bullseye on this team also. The way he synergizes with the non-attacks of these Mercs, making him a Skirmisher, putting more of those vulnerables out there. That's a good way. Is Bullseye as a Skirmisher and Taskmaster as a Striker. And then there's all those vulnerables. So whenever Taskmaster's taking a turn, he's coming back and copying positive effects from the other team. When you build this team up, you're going to be using Ultimates to help that skeleton counter. I think Shuri's the better build in the midway, and in the beginning, Bullseye is actually pretty good if you have Bullseye built up to 70, 80k, which is a tough, that's a tough sell. Building Bullseye, I understand he's trash everywhere else, so that's kind of something OG players kind of try out. So, yeah, for me, this is a D right here. You've got wonky placement, wonky ISOs. This is just a total waste of a space. You might as well leave it empty or put in a shield guard or something. He's just really not doing anything but just filling that spot. All right, team number 3 is a Pymtech team. Other than not being war ready, this is pretty good. You could switch Stature to Fortifier instead of Healer. She's not very fast. Her health bar isn't worth the percentage of health that she's going to be putting out on turn. Minor rejuves aren't that fantastic. I like her better as Barrier because she taunts, and it'll allow her to continue to taunt a little bit longer. Otherwise, so yeah, let's make him war ready and switch Stature over to Fortifier, and then I could give you the A as is. This is just a B for me. Okay, I saw this earlier and I was like, oh my gosh, what are you replacing one of the minions with a non-Hydra character? So if Red Skull gets 25% damage reduction from any Hydra member you put in here, even Crossbones. I didn't realize that actually in a previous, one of you guys corrected me on that, so thank you. So any Hydra member gives him 25% damage reduction so long as they're not summoned. So I was thinking, what are you doing putting in somebody who's not Hydra in here? And then I got to think about it, and look, so Red Skull is built up more than anybody else, and he's still getting 75% damage reduction, so you're not getting through Red Skull anytime soon. Then you have Ghost Rider here built way up, doing lots of damage, and every time one of these little piddly-ass minions dies off, he's going to be smacking that person, I think this is really cool. I think it looks pretty fun. If you don't have other teams like a Supernatural team, which everybody apparently hates, this is a great place to use a big built-up Ghost Rider. You could even make the minions even smaller so that they die easier. So that way, if somebody is trying to come in and just strip the charges off of Red Skull or just attack Ghost Rider first, they could accidentally kill those others and take a lot of damage from Ghost Rider. So I think this is actually kind of something new and fun. I have seen this kind of tactic used in like RTA, where you bring in a big Ghost Rider and then like your 4 smallest people, and somebody comes in and opens up with an AoE, and then Ghost Rider comes back and deletes them. It's kind of cool. So this is interesting. ISOs on this team don't matter so much, but you've got good ones here. Yeah, I think this is great. I'm gonna go ahead and give you an A+ for this. It's a little bit different. There's nothing wrong with this team. Yeah, I mean, I'm assuming that you don't have a good team for Ghost Rider to go on, and so this is where you put them, or you just hate the Supernaturals, Hella Natural, team. So yeah, I'm going to go ahead and give you an A+ for this. It's fun, it's neat, it's new, and I like that because we don't see enough interesting new stuff these days. Okay, we need a placement change and get She-Hulk in the center. We've got 2 strikers, 1 skirmisher. There's only 1 person putting out vulnerables on this entire team. So either change Sue to a skirmisher or change She-Hulk to a skirmisher or a raider or whatever. She doesn't have a lot of synergy with anything. I kind of like her as a fortifier or a healer myself. Well, I like her as any, like I said, she has 0 synergy with any of those really. She's slow and her health bar isn't big enough to warrant this and yada, yada, yada. I like Johnny to the outside with Sue and Thing to the inside and then She-Hulk in the middle. And then I think Sue should be your skirmisher. It's war ready. It's invested in well enough. I think it's a pretty good team. So that placement swap and then consider changing this ISO if you want to get real serious. The trick is that they're getting called on assists a lot. So you have 2 skirmishers, 2 strikers, and hopefully you get that triple hit combo when the assist comes off. Otherwise, yeah, it's pretty good. I'm going to go with a B+ for this team. You're in the ballpark. Okay, here's the Doc Ock Sinister 6 team, which I hate so much. I think that your power levels are pretty wonky, although Mysterio's built up enough, he's not going to die right off the bat. You could put some power in those other 2, bring them up to 13 or 14. It's not really worth it. This team's pretty old. Until we get new members of the Sinister 6 to revitalize this team, I can't advise anyone investing anywhere except for Doc Ock, which you have. You've built up your Doc Ock pretty well. Let's see, you've got these guys adjacent to Doc Ock. I think that's probably correct. Otherwise, you could put Rhino adjacent to Doc Ock and hopefully get a cleanse off of him, but your Rhino is so small, he may not survive long enough to apply that cleanse. I don't like this team. I think this team is very easy to beat, but for some reason, people keep misunderstanding it, or underestimating it, and not understanding it, and it racks up some DVs. So as long as it continues to get you guys defensive victories, then go ahead and use it. For there's, let's see, Skirmisher on Rhino, no, change that to Raider. Raider is okay, I also like Skirmisher. Raider is okay, I also like Skirmisher. Striker is where it's at right there. And then Doc Ock obviously as a healer. Nothing crazy wrong with this team. I just think that there's better hybrids, and I like this team on offense, and I just don't like to see it on defense. I'll give you a B for this. You're doing pretty good. Okay, Heroes for Hire. This is probably far enough back in your roster that it's not bad. I do like it to be one of the last teams to come out, just to make it a little more frustrating for people assigning attackers. Healer on Luke Cage, no, let's go with Fortifier. That's a way better pick. Skirmisher on Iron Fist is correct. Striker on Misty Knight is correct, or Pauline Wing is correct, and Skirmisher on Misty Knight is correct. Raider on Shang-Chi is correct. Yeah, this is fine. If you build your Shang-Chi way, way, way up, like twice as strong as everybody else, you can play Shang-Chi next to Luke Cage and piss off half of my chat. Otherwise, you keep him where he's at, and it works out pretty well. I would like to see Fortifier on Luke Cage because he dies and revives, and he's really slow, and there's a lot of things like people are coming into this team with heal block from the Weapon X team, or they're just dying faster than those rejuves are being applied. So I don't think healer on anybody is a very good pick. I'm going to give you a very light A-, almost an A on this. That's not such a big deal. At least you got the secondary pick there. Team number 8 is Secret Avengers. You took Fury off of there. Thank you. Thank you for taking Fury off of this defense. This is a fantastic defense, especially if you're in security or adjacent to it. That defense down, and then Coulson comes in and pings it, proccing Kestrel's passive, and Kestrel just annihilates people. This is a very challenging team, especially this version, when you put them in a defense down room. I think everything here looks great. Healer, striker, skirmisher. You could change Kestrel to a raider. That's kind of your choice. I had a 2.3 striker and I changed her to a 2.3 raider, and I think the raider is the better choice. You're kind of splitting hairs, so it just depends. I did it because I wanted to test out what other people were saying. I am saying that Raider is better, but it's probably not worth it for most people to spend the ions to change it. Just consider Raider before you go 2.3. Let's see. I definitely think you should take Sam up to 2.3 Skirmisher. And be sure to always take your skirmishers up to 2.3 before you take your strikers up to 2.3, because that 2.3 striker it's kind of pointless if you don't have double vulnerables on the field. You could put some more oomph into Coulson, but honestly, he's kind of there just to proc those defense downs. I like what you're doing here. I mean, there are some points to improve here. I do like this team better on offense. They're really powerful, but I'm going to assume you're in a defense down room, and I'm going to go ahead and give you the A for this team. It's a great way to run in those defense down rooms. Team number 9. Okay, nothing special here. It's just an Emmarauders. He threw in Ultron. Honestly, your Ultron is so small relative to the rest of this team that someone's going to come in with a X factor big enough to take out the Emmarauders, and Ultron's going to die from the splash damage. So I think you're better off with, I know what's coming up next is your Doom, and I think he's big enough to hang with this team and be a relevant threat that would make people expend a bigger team into this, or at least go with a bigger X factor or something, you know. Otherwise, I think your ISOs are great. I think your placement is fine. I just think Ultron's too weak. If you took him up, if you went gear tier 16 and 5 red stars or whatever on Ultron, then yeah, he'd be a monster threat in here. He's too weak as he is. He's gonna die from splash damage, or Shadowlands will kill him. Yeah, it's just he's not a threat on this team. He's too small. So that's kind of a waste. Honestly, I think your best bet is to break up this team and use them elsewhere. A lot of people are using Emma for her speed factor. They're basically benching Sinister. I don't have any good uses for Sinister. If you guys know some good uses for Sinister off of this team, put them in the comments for me. Let me know. I do love Barrier on Strife. I think he's probably built up well enough. He's a little bit weak, relatively speaking, to these two, but it doesn't matter. This team's going to fold anyway. It's got too many counters. It's just an old team. It's not a bad team. It's just old. I'm going to give you a B+ for this. I think you could be doing better things with the members of this team. You're not doing anything wrong with this team. It's just you got to put somebody better in here as the 5th to make it a real credible threat if you want to keep using this version. Okay, here's your Doom. See this 240k Doom? He'd be really scary on that team. As is, again, you're probably going to be using like X Factor with Rhino to beat this team. You've got Shuri in there hoping that she gives the energy to Doom. If I went into this, I would use X Factor and I would just use Shatterstar's ultimate first so that he has the defense up. That way they could tank the ult from Doom no matter what happens. And I would just try and speed Doom up and let him pop off. And the team would probably survive it. Although that is a big scary Doom. It is. But I think that's probably one way to go about it. This Brotherhood is pretty close. This is still a very scary defense. It's just we have counters to it now. I don't know. I'm gonna give you, let's see here, healer, striker, raider, skirmisher, fortifier. This is fine. I kind of like the fortifier on this version with Doom and everything. You're really making it tricky for people to focus down Doom. He's gonna pop off. So like you're really making sure with Shuri, giving him what, 25% chance that he's going to get the energy, and then the fortifier over here so you just can't get through Juggernaut. You've got this skirmisher on Blob, so he's passing out those vulnerables on those AoEs because he's getting hit, so he's going to counterattack. I think this is a very well-built team. It is getting old, and we do know how to beat it, but for what it is, you're doing it absolutely right, so I'm going to give you an A for that, so good job. Okay, that was Chapter Master D's defense. If you want your defense featured, be sure to contact me. Links are in the description. Just jump into my Discord, at me, or, shout at one of my mods. They love it when you ask them questions that I'm supposed to answer. And yeah, remember, guys, don't just have a good game. Be good to yourselves and others, too, and I'll catch you next time. Bye.